Welcome to All Hands on Deck, how to get every city department active on social. We've got a lot of great content to get through today, and we also have something pretty exciting to share later on today's webinar, so please stick around for that. Just a few housekeeping notes. We are recording today's session, so if you need to step away or want to share with a colleague later, you'll get a link to the recording after we wrap up. And if you have questions at any point, please drop them in the Q&A. Or directly into the chat, and we'll be keeping an eye on that and get to as many as we can at the end. We also have a poll coming up in just a few minutes, so please stay tuned for that. Before we get started, just a little bit about us. Social News Desk empowers critical communicators with powerful, secure social media management and archiving software trusted by more than 10,000 professionals. We were founded in 2010, and since then, we've proudly supported America's largest news companies, cities, government agencies, school districts, and universities who require powerful, always-on social media tools. And for our government friends, today's webinar is brought to you in partnership with CivSocial, our ecosystem of tools purpose-built for public sector communicators. We'll be talking more about CivSocial later in the webinar today, but for now, just know that everything we're covering today was built with government teams squarely in mind. And if you're an existing Social News Desk customer, it's great to have you here. If you're newer to us, welcome. But either way, I think today's content is going to be really useful wherever you are. And just a little bit about me. I'm Sarah Lloyd, the head of product success and evangelism here at Social News Desk. I'm based in San Antonio, Texas. I've been with the team for 12 years as of next week. Wow, time flies. Prior to joining SND, I did manage social media and worked in several newsrooms. And I was also a Social News Desk customer before I joined the team. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. The address is there on the screen. And the challenge we're talking about today, getting your whole organization involved in social, not just the comms team, comes up in almost every conversation we have with government social media managers. So today I want to share what we've seen work, what tends to get in the way, and some practical steps that you can take regardless of where your organization is right now. And then toward the end, we're going to pull back the curtain on something we've been working on that I think a lot of you are going to be really excited about. So before we go further, I'd love to hear from you guys. We're going to launch a poll here. This is going to shape how we talk through some of what's coming up. So our poll question is, how many departments at your organization are actively contributing to your social presence right now? So our options are just mine, 2 to 3 departments, 4 or more, or we're working on it. So please go ahead and make your selection. We'll give you guys just a moment to take the poll. All right. Got a pretty even split. All right, so we'll go ahead and end the poll there. It looks like most folks, it's a pretty good split, but most folks are about 2 to 3 departments actively contributing to social presence. So that's great. Love seeing the range. Some of you guys are already building something. Some of y'all are just getting started. But either way, I think you'll find today really useful. So let's talk about how most government communications teams are actually operating right now. You are probably the person or one of a small number of people responsible for your organization's entire social presence. And that means you're writing the posts, scheduling the posts, responding to comments, monitoring mentions, pulling reports, and somehow also keeping tabs on everything happening across every department so you know what to even post about. And your city or county is likely doing a lot. There's so much happening at any given time, and the expectation from leadership and from your community is that all of it shows up on social. But it's all flowing through you, and that's just not sustainable. It leads to burnout. It leads to gaps, like important things that never get posted because there just wasn't enough bandwidth. It leads to missed community moments because by the time the information found its way to you, it was already old news. And honestly, it really limits what your social presence can be, because no matter how good you are at your job, one person just can't be the authentic voice of an entire municipality. So today we're going to talk about a different model. So here's what's possible when departments are active contributing participants in your social strategy and not just sources you chase down for information. Imagine your parks department, your public works team, your library, your utilities department, all of them with a voice posting content that's timely and relevant and comes from the people who actually know it best. And none of that comes through you as a bottleneck. You're still part of the process, but you're a reviewer and a strategist and not the sole author of everything. So let's paint a picture of what that actually looks like in practice. Your parks department is posting about your summer concert series with photos from last week's event, a reminder about this weekend's event, shout out to the local food trucks. It's timely, it's visual, it's community forward, and it came from the people who actually run the program. And that's content your audience loves, and it didn't have to come through you first. And of course, your public works team can also post proactive updates, maybe about a road closure on Main Street before complaints start rolling in. Residents get the information they need, your phone lines stay quieter, and the post came directly from the team that has the accurate, up-to-date information about what's happening on the ground. Meanwhile, your library is sharing content about their summer reading program in a voice that's warm and specific to their audience because it is their audience. They know their community, they know what resonates, and when they're empowered to post directly, that authenticity comes through in a way it never quite does when it's filtered through a central communications team. And your utilities department posted about an outage at 6 a.m. before most residents, and maybe even you, woke up because they had the access and the ability to do it themselves without waiting for you to log in. And that's the kind of real-time, accurate information that builds public trust. And it's really only possible when the people who own the information also have the tools to share it. So that is the vision, but how do we actually get there? It, of course, starts with buy-in. And buy-in starts with making a compelling case internally, not leading with the tool or the process, but leading with the why. The mistake we see most often is framing department participation as an ask. Hey, we want you to start posting on social. Here's how to log in. And that's not buy-in, that's just an assignment, and it usually doesn't stick, right? So instead, you want to connect social to something each department already cares about. Show them what's in it for them. When departments see social as something that serves them and not just a communications department checkbox, they're much more likely to engage with it meaningfully. So here's what that looks like department by department. For parks, you might say your events are some of the most high engagement content that we post. And imagine if you could get that information out in real time without waiting on me. For public works, when you post proactively about road closures or project timelines, it reduces complaint calls. Social is actually a customer service tool for your department. And for utilities, outage updates on social are one of the fastest ways to reach residents during a disruption. You're already creating that information, and we just want to make it easier to share. Just tailor the why to the department you're talking to, and you'll get a very different response than you would with a one-size-fits-all pitch. So the next piece is finding the right people, finding your champions. In almost every department, there's at least one person who really gets it. Someone who's already taking photos at events on their phone, someone who follows your city's social accounts and notices when things are posted, someone who has opinions about how their department is represented online. Find that person. They don't need to be the department head, and in fact, they often are not, but they just need to be enthusiastic and willing. Make them your partner. Bring them into the process early, ask for their input on what content would actually work for their department, and give them a real role, not just, hey, here's your login. When a champion succeeds, they become your best internal advocate, and they'll bring other people along in ways that no top-down mandate ever will. And when you're ready to start with one department. You don't need to onboard everyone simultaneously. Pick your most enthusiastic champion, get them running well, and then use that success as your proof of concept when you approach the next department. One department done well is really worth more than 5 departments just done halfway. So build the model first and then scale it. And of course, the number one reason that department contributors drop off is because contributing feels like extra work on top of an already full plate. So your job is to remove as much friction as possible, and that starts with giving them a content framework. Don't just tell departments to post, tell them what to post. A simple template works wonders. Here's the kind of content your department has that performs well. Here's roughly how often we're hoping to hear from you, and here's what to do if you're not sure whether something is appropriate to share. When people know exactly what's expected, they're far more likely to follow through. And even before contributors are drafting and scheduling content directly, you can set up a low friction way for them to send you material. It could be a shared folder, a simple form, a dedicated email alias, but just meet them where they are. Not everyone will be ready to jump straight into a new platform, and that's okay. A simple submission process lets you start building the habit of contribution before you worry about the tools. Once the habit is there, the transition to a platform becomes much easier. A short recorded walkthrough or a one-page reference guide goes a long way. People are much more likely to try something new if they know how to look it up and how to do it without having to ask. Nobody wants to feel like they're going to break something or do it wrong, so good documentation can help remove that anxiety. Train once, document well, and then you'll spend a lot less time answering the same questions over and over again. Now, when a department posts something that gets strong engagement, tell them and tell everybody. Screenshot the numbers, send out a quick note, mention it in a staff meeting. People repeat behavior that gets positive feedback. And for department contributors who are new to social, seeing that their content actually landed with the community is incredibly motivating. Early wins build momentum, and momentum is what turns a pilot into a program. And one more thing on buy in, and this one's about managing expectations on both sides. Be honest with departments about what participation actually looks like. You're not asking them to become social media managers. You're asking them to share what they're already doing in a more organized way. That's a very different ask, and framing it that way makes a big difference. And of course, be realistic with yourself and with leadership about the timeline. Building a multi department social ecosystem doesn't happen in a month, so give yourself permission to start small and then build. The goal is a sustainable system, not a sprint that burns everyone out in the first quarter. All right, so you've got departments on board and contributors ready to go. Your champions are chomping at the bit. So now the question is, how do you keep everything organized and on brand without becoming a bottleneck yourself? So start with brand guidelines. And I want to emphasize that this doesn't have to be a 40-page document. A one-pager is really enough. You want to go over tone of voice, what you do and don't post, how you handle sensitive topics, and who to contact if they're not sure. Just something concrete that contributors can refer to when they have a question and before they have to come to you. Now, before the first piece of contributed content comes through, you need a defined approval process. Who reviews what before it goes live? How long does the review take? And what happens if something needs edits? What's the turnaround expectation? Get all this documented and communicated up front. When contributors know what to expect and when reviewers know what's expected of them, the whole process runs much more smoothly. And ambiguity is really where things fall through the cracks. Now, not every contributor needs the same level of access, and thinking through this in advance can save a lot of headache later. Some contributors may be able to draft and submit content, but not publish directly. Some may have access to one department account, but not others. And some may be able to just view the calendar, but not make changes. Map out your access levels before you start onboarding. The more intentional you are about who can do what, the more confidently you can hand over the keys without worrying about what might go out unchecked. And finally, I want to mention accessibility. This, of course, deserves its own moment because it's often the first thing that slips when you start onboarding contributors who aren't professional communicators. You want to emphasize alt text, image descriptions, accessibility practices that aren't just best practice, they're frequently a legal requirement for government organizations. So build accessibility into your onboarding process from day one. Make it a part of your brand guidelines. Make it part of your approval checklist. Don't just treat it as an afterthought because once contributors are in the habit of skipping it, that habit is really hard to break. So remember that thing I teased at the beginning? This is the moment. Everything we've talked about today, the multi-department participation, the approval workflows, the accessibility, the coordination, we've built a tool specifically designed to support all of it. So today we're excited to introduce CivSocial, a brand new social media management platform that's purpose-built for government teams from the ground up. It's not adapted from a marketing tool. It's not a rebranded version of something else. It's built specifically for how public sector communicators work, with the workflows, the compliance considerations, and the community responsibilities that come with serving the public. CivSocial is part of the CivAll ecosystem, alongside tools for government website management and public records archiving, and it represents a significant step forward for government communicators who've outgrown what general social tools can offer. If Social News Desk got you here, CivSocial is where government teams go next. So let me show you what we've built. One of the things my screen just did something really crazy. All right. One of the things we heard consistently from government communicators when we were building CivSocial was that user limits were a real barrier, having to choose which departments got a seat in the platform or paying per user in ways that made scaling participation feel impossible. CivSocial Enterprise supports unlimited users and unlimited social accounts, and every department that needs to be in the platform can be in the platform. And within that, access is completely configurable. You set the role, the permissions, which accounts each user can see, and what level of publishing access they have. So your parks coordinator can draft and submit, your comms manager can approve, and your department head can have view access without being in the workflow at all. Everyone has exactly the access they need and nothing they don't. Now, the approval workflow in CivSocial is built around how government review processes actually work, which is to say, content usually needs eyes on it before it can go anywhere. When a department contributor drafts a post, it goes into an approval queue rather than publishing directly. Reviewers can approve it, request edits, leave notes, all inside the platform. No email chains, no chasing people down, no wondering whether something went out before it was ready. And you can also set up multi-step approvals if your organization needs them. So content might go from a department contributor to a communications reviewer to a final sign-off, depending on the account. The workflow maps to your process, not the other way around. Now, alt text might seem small, but for government communicators, it's anything but. And anytime a contributor goes to post an image in CivSocial, they're prompted to add alt text right there in the publishing workflow before the post goes anywhere. It's not buried in settings. It's not something they have to remember to go look for. It's just part of how you publish. And for government organizations where accessibility is a legal requirement, that structural prompt matters enormously, especially when you're onboarding department contributors who may not have a comms background and don't yet know to think about it. CivSocial builds the practice in so you don't have to police it. As your departments get active, your account footprint grows, and managing all of it from one place becomes essential. CivSocial gives you a unified view across every account, every department, every platform. You can see what's scheduled, what's pending approval, and what's already gone out, all without toggling between logins or lose track of what's happening where. And because access is set at the individual user level, each contributor only sees the accounts that are relevant to them. Parks sees parks, utilities sees utilities. You see everything. It's organized by design. And here's a feature I'm particularly excited about in the context of today's topic because it directly addresses one of the trickiest parts of running a multi-department social presence. When residents comment on a post or send a DM, those messages often land with the communications team, even when the question is really for public works or utilities or parks. And you end up playing middleman, forwarding questions to people who aren't on the platform, waiting for answers, and then going back to respond. It's slow and it's frustrating for everyone. CivSocial's inbox changes that. Department contributors can be given access to respond directly to comments and messages relevant to their area. So when a resident asks about a road closure timeline in the comments of a public works post, the public works coordinator can respond directly in real time with accurate information. And you stay in the loop. The resident gets a faster, more knowledgeable answer, and your team stops being the bottleneck for information that you don't actually own. And finally, Planner. This is CivSocial's calendar tool, and it's where a lot of the coordination we've been talking about today actually comes together. When you have multiple departments contributing to your social presence, visibility becomes critical. Who's posting what? When? Is there overlap? Are there gaps? Is the utilities department posting about a water main project on the same day Parks is promoting their big summer event? Planner gives everyone a shared view of what's coming across all accounts, all departments, all platforms. Contributors can see the calendar for their own area and you can see everything. And because it's built for collaboration, it makes the back and forth of coordinating a multi department content calendar something you can actually manage without a spreadsheet and a lot of follow up emails. All right, so let's get into some questions. I do see a question in the chat here. Is this a separate application from Social News Desk? Yes, CivSocial is a separate application from SND. We do anticipate our Social News Desk customers transitioning to CivSocial later this year. And if you are new to us, we would love to show you CivSocial. If you are interested in learning more about CivSocial, whether you are a current customer or not a customer yet, we hope to become, we would become a customer. Feel free to scan the QR code there on the screen and you can just submit a quick form to let us know you're interested. And we'll be reaching out to some folks to be part of our customer beta. And we'd love to have you guys on board. All right, what do you do when a department head is supportive, but their staff just won't engage? So in that case, really go back to that champion approach. If the person who's been asked to contribute isn't feeling it, find someone else in that department who is, even if they're not the one that leadership originally identified. Really, enthusiasm matters more than title here. All right, how do you handle a post that goes out without approval and causes a problem? So this is a great reason to get your access levels set up clearly before you start onboarding anyone. And if someone posts something they shouldn't have, the first question is always, how did they have the ability to do that? So you want to fix the process, not just the post. All right, we have a very small team. Is this realistic for us? Yes, small teams often benefit the most from this model. Even one department taking one category of content off of your plate can create some real capacity. So start with the department that will give you the biggest return for the least effort and then go from there. All right. Is CivSocial only for large cities or does it work for smaller municipalities too? It works for both. The unlimited users and accounts enterprise model actually tends to benefit smaller teams the most because you're not constrained by what you can afford to scale up to. You start where you are and you grow into it. And our pricing is population based. So smaller municipalities, won't pay as much as maybe a million plus municipality. So just keep that in mind as well. All right. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions. It doesn't look like it. If you have any last minute questions, please get those in now. But I do want to leave you guys with a couple of next steps. If today's conversation sparked something and you want to see CivSocial in more depth, a full walkthrough tailored to your team and your specific use case, you can either head to civall.com to get a demo scheduled, or you can scan that QR code right on your screen. We would love to show you around. And of course, if you're a current Social News Desk user who just wants to learn more about CivSocial as your next step, you can start that conversation with us. You can get in touch with your client success manager or again, fill out that form. The recording of today's session will be in your inbox shortly after we wrap up. So feel free to share with a colleague or with that department head you've been trying to bring into the conversation. And thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you guys walk away with at least one concrete thing that you can put into action this week and maybe a little excitement about what's coming next. So take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.